Okay, here we are. Alt.nerd.obsessive. Worst episode ever.
Hey everybody, welcome to Worst Episode Ever, a podcast for people who love The Simpsons, by people who love The Simpsons, about how much we hate The Simpsons. We're here trying to find which is the worst episode ever. And as always, my name is Dan.
And as always, my name is Jack.
And today we are going to be watching a season 27 episode.
Ooh.
That sounds recent. That sounds like it only aired in December of 2015. Do you know why, Jack?
Because it only aired in December of 2015?
You got it.
I thought it aired this year. Yeah, I guess not.
It didn't. Well, this year is pretty new.
Yeah, it is.
I actually don't know if any episodes have aired this year, but we're watching Barthood is today's episode.
All right. I'm assuming like the movie Boyhood.
Like the movie Boyhood, but with Bart as the boy.
So I'm assuming we're going to see him age, and it's just gonna be a straight up parody of Barthood.
I'm assuming that Bart is going to don some sort of green hood and become a vigilante to serve Starling City.
Like Arrow?
Like Arrow.
He doesn't wear a hood. I mean, he wears a hood, but he doesn't have hood in the name. I thought you were doing Red Hood.
Red Hood.
Who
doesn't actually wear a hood?
The old Robin from the second Robin. What was his name? Jason Todd. I thought that's what you were referencing, and then you threw me off with the last second
Red
Arrow
Hood
reference.
doesn't wear a hood, though. He just wears a giant red, helmet thing.
Yeah, he should be called Red Helmet.
He should be called Red Helmet.
Get on that, DC.
Green hood, red helmet. All of these sounds like sex moves, kind of. I gave her the old red helmet, bro.
Bro. I gave her the green hood.
Oh, that sounds like a disease. That doesn't sound good at all. I don't want the green hood.
Yes, you do. You take that green hood.
All right, I'll take it. We got off topic very quickly.
And you accept taking diseases too easily.
I accept all diseases. Please send them to me. Care of Wii Studios.
Please don't send any envelopes of diseases to Wii Studios.
As far as I know, our address is not public record, and it will stay that way. We have a P.O. box.
Yeah, I'm sure they would figure it out. And if you do figure it out, still just hold off on the sending us diseases, please. Thank you.
Unless it's the red hood. Or the green hood.
No,
or any kind of hood. Anyway, we're going to watch Barthood. We're going to take a break in a moment. If you haven't watched it, you can do that on Simpsons World. I believe it's also on Hulu if you're listening to this relatively when it comes out, 'cause it's new. But you know where to find those episodes. And if you want to help support the show, you should go to wepodcast.com and click through our Amazon links. You guys have been killing it this month with Amazon. Just go to wepodcast.com, click on the banners, and shop like you normally would. We get a small cut. Helps keep the show free. We love that.
Also, if you want to hear more from us, obviously we've got a couple of sync points out there, but there's also a new podcast starting 4 or 5 days from now.
3 days.
3 days.
4.
90s percentile.
How many days are between Thursday and Monday?
Doesn't
this
matter.
Monday. If you're listening to this is the day it comes out.
And last Monday, 3, 4, 5 days ago. I can't count the days, but no.
We really hate Mondays, much like Garfield.
But last Monday we started our Facebook page and our Twitter handle. Facebook page is 90s percentile whatever. You'll find it. Our Twitter handle is at 90s percentile 90SPERCENTILE. So please follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook. That way, when we launch in a few days, you will be the first to know.
Yeah.
Dan, I got to mention, you already broke your New Year's resolution, and we were 30 seconds ago. I know we got off track with the hood thing.
Yeah.
30 seconds before we started recording, you were ready to do it. You forgot to mention who suggested this episode.
I remembered to remember it.
You remembered to remember it, but you didn't remember it.
So this was suggested by our guest, who we're going to bring out in a bit, and also someone on our Reddit thread, I Went Hojo.
All right.
So thank you for I Went Hojo.
Thank you.
For bringing this episode to our attention.
And our guest, who I guess we're just going to leave it a big secret for the next 30 seconds.
Secret.
So find out after this.
After this.
Why is the sky blue?
I don't know, just is.
Why are clouds white?
No clue.
Why are people yellow?
It's the way God made them.
Why is grass green?
So you can find your damn golf ball. Now I have a question for you. Why did you leave your toy car on the stairs?
Why is blood red?
Why do you ask?
It's coming out your ear.
Oh, so that was Barthood.
Oh my goodness, it sure was, Jack.
Before we get into it, let's introduce our guest. It's been a very long time since he's been on the show.
Richard Linklater, everybody.
The Richard Linklater
It's
of
me,
Wii
Richard
Studios. It's Brice Bishop-Pullan.
Yeah, it's only taken 12 years for you to still forget my name.
It's Brice Bishop-Pullan. How's it going, Bryce?
Good. How's it going with you guys?
Good to see that you didn't die the last couple of weeks, as Dan had conjectured a couple of weeks ago.
We each
Well, you
conjectured it.
don't have any evidence that didn't happen.
But it's funny because
Are you saying you're a zombie, Bryce?
I'm saying anything's possible, Dan.
You did come in and you were eating a bucket of brains, which I thought was strange.
so let's do the plot recap first. It's obviously it's a parody of the Richard Linklater movie Boyhood.
Sort of.
Oh,
Sort of, yeah.
That's the thing. It's I don't want to go too far into it, but it's not really. Yeah.
It takes the premise and a few other characteristics of the movie.
I missed what they were going for until the very end when they said, "Oh, did you like that movie Boyhood?" But anyway.
Did you think it was going to be Girlhood, that other movie?
Yeah, I did.
So it was.
I thought it was going to be Red Hood. Remember that from before?
It's basically the premise of Boyhood. So we see Bart's childhood from age 2 or 3 to age 18, basically, and just little vignettes throughout those ages in chronological order. Interesting story. I guess the main crux of the story is Bart's rivalry with Lisa. He always feels like she just outdoes him because she's, better would be the word.
Yeah.
Lisa's better than Bart.
Yep.
And he just kind of feels like he's playing second fiddle as a child. And then there's a couple of B plot and C plots, I guess, with his relationship specifically to Homer and to Grandpa that also play throughout. We don't really need to do a scene by scene. We'll just get into it because basically the show is a scene by scene.
Yeah.
In that it's lots of little vignettes. It begins at the early. Like I said, the entire episode is in chronological order, and it starts at the earliest possible point with Homer as Bart as a toddler.
Right. He must have been 2 because Lisa wasn't around.
Right. And I think this is also interesting to note because I feel like in the classic era, or earlier than the HD era, they would have built some kind of framework. They would have introduced you either as a flashback or a story, whereas now that the show's been on for 27 years, and I do think to its credit, the HD era, we're talking about this before the show. Actually, we had a great
conversation that should have been part of this episode.
Should have been recorded, but we didn't. Instead, we recorded like 5 minutes of Hemus.
Yeah, no one will ever hear, I'm assuming.
But no, right before the show, we were talking about how we kind of like the HD era more than we do the Purgatorio teen era.
I don't know if I would say we like them more. I enjoy watching those episodes because I don't know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, you don't know what to expect. It's a little bit more experimental, even if the experiments are noble and fail.
This is a completely different show.
Yeah.
Than like season 16, season 18.
Right, season 16 and season 18 are more like just bad
They're trying
Simpsons
to be
episodes.
Exactly.
This
they're trying to be.
This is zombie Simpsons.
I don't know what the hell this is.
Yeah.
This is not the Simpsons.
This episode is clearly they just wanted to try something.
Right.
So,
but
this is a show where Homer and Chief Wiggum are taking hits from the bong.
Right. It's not a quote unquote like canon show, and I don't even think it's necessarily. I don't even think it's necessarily the same vein as the other shows that like look forward into what's the future going to be like. This is just a let's take the characters and do something with them that fits into the framework of the Simpsons reality, but tweaks it a little bit so that it's got some more realistic.
We'll get into the
more realistic
realistic tones. But what I wanted to talk about is I like how. There is no framework. It just puts you right into it. It's like, look, Bart, this is an extended flashback. Bart is a kid. They don't set it up. You don't.
Well, it's not even a flashback. It's what Boyhood did. It's just we're starting with this kid and we're seeing him grow up.
If you don't know what this episode's about, you didn't see the commercials. You're putting it on Sunday 8:00. It might be a little jarring for. It's like, oh, is this a flashback? Oh, it's still going. So I feel like the classic era, they would have put some kind of framework. I think it's a plus. I think it's the show's credit that in the season 27 HD era, they don't feel the need to do that. They're like, look, you've been watching the show for 27 years. Keep up.
You're right, but they don't really go all the way with it because there are so many things to be like, this is like Boyhood.
Yeah, I know.
We're doing a Boyhood thing this week.
That's a shame.
Like it starts off, they paint Barthood in the same font as Boyhood, the thing at the end.
Well, I think
That's
it's a wide audience. Yeah. You want to give a little bit of intro to it.
But at least they're not wasting time with a framing device. Whereas I feel even if the episode was way better in season 6, they would have built in, the car broke down and Homer's going to tell the story of something like that.
The B-sharps.
It's nice that they feel they don't need to do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They can just start as a story and be like, here's the beginning of the story.
Well, that's something I think. Like we were saying, that's more recent-ish. With these HD episodes, they don't really care about the continuity much anymore. Yeah. Mm-hmm. In a good way, I think.
I think it's a combination of they've been on for so long that they can experiment, but they've also been on for so long that you're so familiar with the show that they can.
You're more media literate, I guess.
They can experiment with the show, and they know you're so well versed in the fundamentals that you can keep up.
Yeah.
So that's cool that the HD era can do that. It's a shame. They're not firing on all cylinders while they're doing it. That could have been something crazy, but at least it's something. I think that's also why we enjoy watching these episodes more than season 18.
You guys said a long time ago, you talked about, it's like you said, you'd rather they try something and it bomb than them do the same thing very lazily. And that's when the reason I wanted to watch this episode with you guys is I saw it, and I saw it on, Simpsons World, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll watch this. And before I started it, I was thinking, I can't decide if I want this to be a direct parody of Boyhood and be terrible and like ruin and just be awful, and they were lazy and it's bad and it hurts my feeling about the movie, or do I want them to not really do something that's Boyhood and just kind of do a good Simpsons episode and
like using
and be
the
like
tropes of Boyhood.
But using the tropes of Boyhood, and do I feel that's like, but they just were kind of like, oh, we'll just Boyhood it, but we'll do like,
I like that. I think that would be better.
I think this came out the way that I think this came out
somewhere in the middle.
It came closer to what I was hoping they would do. It didn't.
Well, I think this is not an episode that, like, it wasn't like, let's take Boyhood and shove a bunch of gags into it.
Yes.
It was, let's do a somewhat realistic take on what Boyhood would be like from Bart's perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was an especially funny episode. It was an interesting episode, though. And I have to kind of give some credit to that, because maybe it's just because we're watching so many kind of mid-era Purgatorio type episodes from like season 16 where they do cram in a bunch of gags, and if a bunch of them miss, they don't seem to care. Like the whole doomsday process thing we've been talking about, where the weaker jokes would die away. I feel like this episode, they were not focused on the gags. Like, there were some funny situations and things. There were some funny lines.
It was a storytelling episode with jokes in it, and some of the jokes, I mean, I'll contend that the jokes in this episode, the pace of this episode was good. It had a good, fast pace, and their jokes were paced well. There were very
jokes.
There were very few.
We'll get into that.
I remember one joke that I liked.
There are very few. There are very few jokes that they did that didn't immediately move on to the next, the next portion of the show.
They did an interesting thing in this episode, which I guess is in keeping with Boyhood, sort of, where there were a lot of quick cuts. Mm-hmm. And not like an MTV editing type thing, where it would just be like, the scene in particular that stuck out with me was Homer is taking Bart camping, and Bart was like playing with an air horn. And then at one point, Bart's disappointed, and he hits the air horn, and it goes off for like a second, and then it cuts to the very next scene where they're already doing something else.
Well, they had set that up already. They did a gag where
there was no transition.
There was like an extended air horn, I think that was. I see what you're saying about the editing. I think in that specific scene, it was more. You see this a lot in editing, in any medium. Where they know you're going to get the joke, so they just cut it. The joke is that's like, oh, here comes the joke.
But it wasn't that they cut away during the joke for the thing, because they cut immediately into the next scene, and things were happening.
Yeah. Well, the same thing happened with the car crashing into the house.
You're right.
And Bart gets his line out, and then it just cuts to the next scene.
Yeah.
And it didn't stay with Homer
there was not like dead time in this episode.
Yes.
I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
There is a really awful extra beetle arm at one point, but you're right. It doesn't.
You're talking about Chief Wiggum? Is it Chief Wiggum?
We'll get to that later. But it doesn't.
I agree.
Besides that exception, you're right. There's not a lot of extra beats because they don't linger, and that's better. You're right. It's nice to not linger. The only time you should be lingering is when the lingering is the joke.
Okay, so
let's talk about the first scene. Let's get the for people who didn't actually see it. It opens up with Bart and Homer, young Bart, and Homer laying in the grass, and Bart's doing that kid thing where you just ask a bunch of questions. Why is the sky blue? Why is the grass green? Blah 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 blah.
Right, and it's basically the poster of Boyhood, the kid looking up into the sky.
And then I like the reveal is finally after these series of questions. One question is, why aren't you moving? Or I forget the exact joke, but
why are we laying here?
Why? Yeah.
It was all like color questions, like why is the sky blue? And Homer's like,
but then they ask, why are you laying here? And it pulls out.
Right, and why is blood red?
No. You're getting ahead. The joke is Homer. They pull out. It's like, why are you laying there? And Homer is laying there, and it's because he's just like lying there. He's like, the blood red is the button.
Right. Yeah. I thought it was building to that.
We haven't built up. We got to explain this to the people. So I can't think of the way to word it. Stop! You're really distracting me.
I just like that you're like, no, shut up.
No, because
Now,
you're getting ahead.
let me-
I'm trying to set it up.
First of all,
I'm
we
just
should
saying
keep
it's
all of this
entertaining.
in.
That's why I'm laughing.
And second of all, I thought it was building because it was like, why the sky's blue? Why the clouds are white?
Well, no, the
why
joke
is the grass green?
The reveal is that Homer's not just laying there like moseying in the grass. The joke is that he tripped on one of Bart's toys and he fell and he's like horribly like injured and crippled and he's just like all mangled and he's laying there. That's the joke. And then I like the button where they bring it back to the color where then Homer goes, why is blood red?
Okay.
And he's like, why
See,
do
I
you
remembered it the other way around.
Yeah, no. So I like
So I was wrong.
So that was one of the few jokes I liked, is my point.
As usual.
Why is your blood red?
The blood red didn't.
It was okay.
The
It
pull
didn't
out,
do
the
anything
visual
for me.
pull out was funny.
Was nice.
The blood
Yeah.
red was like, but you know what? Whatever, it's fine.
That's
they
a
moved
great
on.
way to do a parody where you're specifically, like you said, you're referencing the poster, but it kind of lulls you into that where you're like, okay, this is referencing the poster, and then it's nice for them to go, oh, Homer tripped and fell. It was a nice little reveal.
There's also a small thing in here that actually leads into a bigger point that I wanted to make, where while Bart's asking all these questions, he asks, why is the grass green? And Homer says, so you can see your golf ball. And I thought that was weird. Homer doesn't play golf, except for that one episode where he
it's
did.
just a dad answer.
It's just a dad answer.
I guess, but this episode, like I said, this is the larger point I wanted to make. It felt like it built a lot of things up that were not important to character. Like, things were important all of a sudden to Bart that were never important to Bart before. Like, suddenly he wants to do BMX biking when Bart has always been a skateboarder. Yeah. Suddenly he's really into art when he's never been into art.
This is actually a point I want to bring up, too. I think, in general, this episode operates... Again, it's like, what would Simpsons be like in Boyhood? But you're right, it's almost a self-contained thing. There's very little that ties into the larger mythology, the larger continuity. You have Lisa is smart and better than Bart. That's pretty much it. Whereas, like, his relationship with Grandpa, he has a very close bond with Grandpa. That's not really there in
We've
the
seen
series.
it maybe in the Hellfish episode.
Yeah, exactly.
The only one.
Yeah. There's also... stylistic choices, like Brice was saying, how the clothing and the hairstyles are more realistic. It's as opposed to a future episode that usually sticks with the general.
They usually take their normal clothes and just update them. Bart will be taller, but still wear the same.
Bart's been when they've aged Bart up before, he's been wearing. They've aged Bart and Lisa up and had them wearing different clothes. But
this
when
is more of a
it's
naturalistic style.
Yes.
Where, they're trying to make it a little bit more detailed. And they're it's trying to give it. I guess they're trying to make it look more like a Boyhood, but that's silly because they do move parodies. You know, when they did Cape Fear, they didn't need to have everybody look more realistic. Because
though they did have Sideshow Bob dressed like Max Cady does. In
but
the
animation style is they weren't trying to make it look like it was right. Because if you're doing a movie parody, every movie that's live action is more naturalistic. Yeah. It's weird that they picked it. I guess.
Well, here's the thing.
More of a naturalistic movie.
I think the conceit of this story, and I think when they were figuring out what they were going to do with this story was, okay, Boyhood is about a boy growing up and getting older through life and sort of finding his way through life and just the things that happen.
Yeah.
And they were like, let's do that with Bart. And they're like, okay, but if we're going to do that, the real world isn't like the Simpsons world. It's going to have to be a little more like realistic in a way.
Detailed.
And I think I think in a way the art direction of the episode was indicative of the fact that it's not a canonical thing. You're not watching what's happening and you're watching a parody.
Yeah.
Because if everybody had just been wearing the same clothes the whole time and hadn't looked different, I think it would have felt a lot more bizarre that people were getting older and changing. You know, it's a very, the look is much more naturalistic because they wanted you to feel like this isn't happening in the world of The Simpsons. This is something we're doing. Right. We're telling a story using the characters.
That's a great point.
Using the world. It's going to be more naturalistic. Things are going to happen that aren't cemented in the canon of the show, but that's okay because we're having them grow up, and that's not in the canon of the show.
Just very quick, for anybody who hasn't actually watched it, we should mention what we mean by the naturalistic art direction. It's mostly in the clothes and hair. So, we've seen Homer in various ages and flashbacks of how his hair is. He was gradually lost his hair.
Right. Sometimes he had 4 strands before he had 2.
The difference here is it's a little bit less Simpson-y. Like, for instance, a lot of Simpsons characters have spikes for hair, like Bart and Lisa. And whereas they focus a little bit more on just trying to give them a hairstyle that actually translates better to humans. You know, it's almost like this isn't it. This is a metaphor, but it's like they gave them 4.5 fingers. It's like a Simpsons episode.
That's a good metaphor. I like that.
And a natural would have 5 fingers, and this was like giving them 4.5 fingers. So some of the hairstyles, it's
like a little stumpy pinky.
Yeah. So like when we've seen Homer in the earlier scenes, his hair was never what we've seen in flashbacks before. Look, he had more of a comb over that actually could exist in real life.
Yeah.
Grandpa's hair as well, and then the clothes.
Professor Frink.
Rather than just Frink, and rather
Lisa,
than just having a
Bart.
plain white shirt or white collared shirt, I guess they had like more of a belt.
He'd be wearing like khakis with chinos and like a polo shirt.
So that's just what we mean by this naturalistic art direction. But going back to the point with what we were saying, how it's. Yeah, Bart's never been interested in bikes. He was more of an artist here. They loosely at the end, I was like, oh yeah, that's. They make a joke about El Barto, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess he has been doing that before. But I've never seen his graffiti as him expressing himself artistically.
It's usually just tagging his name.
Yeah, he's a Dennis the Menace. He's bad boy. He's doing graffiti.
Yeah, but can you think of a canonical thing that they give me argue to me a canonical Bart. Thing that Bart's staple interest that would have translated into a future job.
Skateboarding is the first thing. Well, not as a future job, but like, why was it BMX biking and not skateboarding?
I'm not sure.
None of these are far off. You could
because you can design because I think they went and wrote the whole episode and at some point they went, designing bikes is a thing. He does have skateboards he does have like a wall of skateboards.
You're right. From skateboarding to in the next 2 years he'll get into biking, and from graffiti he could get into artist.
But that's not how it happens in the episode because he gets the bike from Grandpa when he's like 6.
Yeah. Well,
but they are skateboarding when he gets the bike.
So I think it's better that the episode actually is self-contained. It's funny when I was watching this, I didn't see it as non-canon. Like I'm very with Simpsons. I don't really give a shit about canon, but I didn't see this as a Halloween episode, I guess. I didn't see it as like, this doesn't count. Where that was when you brought that up, I was like, oh, that's a surprising way of looking at it. I never saw it that way. But you're right. If you do look at that way, it does help swallow these in a Halloween episode, they will give you these rules, and you just go with the rules, and it makes the story work. That episode that takes place in the 1800s, the Salem witch trial one, where Marge is a witch. It's a period piece, and you just take for granted that this is a period piece, and all these rules follow. So now it's easier to tell a story. So now looking at this as if this was a canon episode, it makes it easier to swallow. Oh yeah, Bart has this relationship with Grandpa. Bart wants to be an artist. As opposed to trying to tie it into the universal, all the other episodes. If you do look at it a canon, it does make it a lot easier to swallow. Obviously, Bart having a relationship with Grandpa is more subtle than them living in the 1600s in the colonial era.
But none of this can be what's happening because we see Bart at times. We've already seen him, and it's different.
But nothing's really what's the word? Not counter.
Right, but the look is different. The feel is different. What the way things are happening is different.
It's kind of like Daredevil and Jessica Jones is to the Marvel universe. It's different, but it's not exactly. It's not.
No. It's not. It's not saying.
I mean, those are supposed to all be in the same universe.
That's what I'm saying. Whereas this, I could see being in the same universe. It's just a different lens.
Yeah. My argument would be, this clearly isn't supposed to be what we think is going to happen in The Simpsons, because the next episode of The Simpsons after this is not like when Bart's an adult still working on bikes.
Be back to normal.
Yeah.
But you could watch any Simpsons episode and be like, that could happen in the future. Grandpa could die in a couple of years.
Yeah.
There's
That's
really
true.
no knowing.
But I guess my argument of like, well, Bart's not really into this. We've never seen him be into that is like, as he's growing up in this episode, what's the reason he can't? And if there are you guys have talked about like staying true to characters, and I think that this episode stayed true to characters in important ways, and then did things differently when it felt right for the story. And there's no reason that Bart can't get into art or can't do this.
That's what I mean.
He's a big comic book fan. It sort of makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
But when I was like 8, I'm sure there was stuff that I was super into that like then when I was like 15, it was a lot of different.
A lot of weightlifting competitions, like just
right. I was so
men,
into
Mr. Universe pageants.
Greek wrestling.
Yeah,
Greco-Roman wrestling.
We're all still
I was
into
really
Greek
into
wrestling,
that.
right?
Just the Greek. I'm out of the Roman.
We were wrestling before we started recording this podcast.
We were.
Well, that's why we wanted you to close the window. It's very cold when you're not wearing any clothes.
We're all greased up and naked. I thought everyone knew that already. Did we not say that on
Wait,
the
are we
show?
doing? We're periscoping this, right?
We're periscoping this one, yeah.
If you guys missed out, sorry, we deleted it.
I guess we were all defending. I'm not against the idea. I like that it's kind of both worlds. Yeah, it's a separate thing. It exists separate from the continuity. So yeah, you know what? Suspension of disbelief. Bart and Grandpa have a very close relationship. Fine. Bart's actually a great artist. Fine. But at the same time, I can also tie it into the universal continuity of the series if I want to, because it's not contradicting anything in any major way.
In any major way. That's what's important, is that they don't do something like...
It's a nice medium.
Like Homer doesn't have, they don't go into Homer actually does this as a job, and Marge actually goes to does this as a job, and Bart always says this. So
if the main continuity of the series is 4 fingers and Treehouse of Horror is 5 fingers, I would say this is a 4.5 finger episode.
Yeah,
the old
stumpy pinky. By the way, it's the middle finger that they don't have, because they point. They've got a thumb.
So it's a middle.
They point. They wear wedding rings.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And they don't wear the wedding ring on the last finger.
I've never seen anyone flip anyone off.
Yes, we have. The Simpsons movie.
What? I didn't see the Simpsons movie, so
I know we got to stand in for the sync points. A Dan impersonator.
That was my impersonator.
It was actually Hemus. He does a great Dan. Does a great Dan.
He does.
No, it's we've seen middle fingers before, but that is a good point.
But if you look at their hands and how they use them, it's either their index and their middle finger acts as their
You would think they wouldn't need the pinky. You'd think that would be the one to go.
Right. Yeah, but then how would you know? But then they'd be wearing their wedding ring on their pinkies.
And then where do mafia guys put their rings?
Exactly.
Yeah.
On their thumbs.
Boom, figured it out.
Anyway,
you're welcome. You're welcome, Al Jean.
I feel like we got into this big talk about continuity. I didn't mean to tip us off into that.
No, we should be. This is my Simpsons podcast.
But my original point was my point with saying Bart was never into BMX biking. It's not that the characters can't change, and I don't really care about continuity myself.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. But we talk about integrity. That's one of the big things that we check on when we rank every episode. I felt like it would have been so simple to just use elements of Bart's character that have been built up over the past 27 years instead of just adding new things.
I agree.
Well, that's what I'm saying though. Name them, because I want your argument of what the story would have been.
I'll give it to you in 1 minute.
All right.
But I want to just say, I thought you had a good point. It doesn't mean that Bart could never get into being an artist. I think that's true, but I think.
It was it
was out of the blue. Not in this episode. It's built up nice in this episode because he defaces the kitchen with his art, and then he turns into an artist, and at the end he's got his whole wall.
I think they picked artist because that's what the kid is in Boyhood. I think you're right. The movie, which they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. That was my other thought. Yeah, that I think it's just the kid in Boyhood was an artist.
He was a hipster in Boyhood. He turned into a hipster. So
they kind of modeled his hair a little bit on Bart too.
That's fine because that's physical, but they shouldn't have modeled Bart off that kid. Because Bart and that kid really have very little common. Just like how that scene with Homer where they go camping was a little jarring, because Boyhood is a big part of Boyhood is about the divorce, about how they're from a broken home. They spend separate time with their father and their mother, which you can't do in this because the Simpsons are not divorced. So it was that weird scene where he just goes off with Homer.
You could have done it. You could have had them divorced when Bart is 12 years old.
Then you're getting away from what they're trying to tell.
Which is something that Al Jean said was going to happen this season, and then it was just every man's dream.
I'm glad they didn't split up the parents, because then you're really making this a self-contained episode that has nothing to do with the gen. That's more 5 fingers than 4.5 fingers.
Right.
I feel like, they again, with the divorce, they tell this weird scene with Homer where it would have made more sense if he was a single parent than him just going camping with Bart, and it's weird that it seemed like they were going out of their way to pull more connections to the movie than they needed to.
Yeah.
And if they did, they should have just made it about Bart aging, not Bart aging, but also sort of being the kid from Boyhood.
Yeah. But going back to Brice's point of what it should have been, what it could have, things that Bart is known to do. Bart is a troublemaker, like a prankster. I think skateboarding could have easily subbed in for the bicycle
That's
thing.
not that different. The wheels.
Yeah, but it was weird. Like, why would Bart be in competitions for biking when we know he's a skateboarder, and there's skateboarding competitions that are exactly like that?
But now he's older. And,
whatever.
Biking is more mature than skateboarding.
But the artist
for babies.
The artistry thing, I think you could have easily had Bart like.
That's a quote from Tony Hawk, right?
Skateboarding's for babies.
Tony Hawk. He ends
900.
every quote by saying Tony Hawk. He's like young Jeezy.
Well, he's got that hawk at the end.
Took a lot of training to get that hawk to squawk every time he said a maxim. Sorry, Dan, your point?
I don't remember my point.
Welcome to the Brice and Jack Podcast. Dan, I'm glad you're our guest today.
Thanks, guys, for having me. Oh, man, I've loved your podcast.
Do you have any thoughts? No? Okay,
I've been sitting
Jack?
here listening to it for the past half hour. I think Bart, it would have made sense, like, instead of artistry to maybe like acting or something. Mm-hmm. Like Bart is clearly like comedy is kind of what I thought because he's the class clown. Yeah, like he's been famous on Krusty's show. Shop. Yeah. I think there's something to that.
Yeah. No, those are good ideas. I actually, when you were talking, I thought when you were talking about it, I was like, oh yeah, class clown comedy. Yeah. I think maybe this was easier to portray in a short manner.
I think you're right.
So I think some of it was something that they did for the story, but I guess you are right. There are things they probably could have captured from the original.
The loose references to the fact that there is some artistic background you can build off of. Not the best choice. It works for me though. Just
right, but I think it works in this episode.
Yes,
like in this episode, they do tie it all together. It was just.
I think it's a well constructed episode.
I agree with you.
Again, I like the idea that the being an artist and being a BMX guy. The 4.5 fingers is enough.
Grandpa had shown Bart how to drive, and there was this whole thing where he had, I think it was like Studebaker. There was a sort of funny line where Grandpa was like, I bought it brand new in 1950 whatever, and I forgot about it until just now.
Yeah.
But he shows Bart the car, and then it kind of, does that go anywhere?
He teaches him to drive.
He teaches him to drive, and then Bart drives through the wall, but then that's kind of it.
I think there was just more of a vehicle, no pun intended, for the Grandpa Bart bonding that is the first episode.
But everything else like ties back into the end, like the Bart drawing on the wall, that's like him being an artist, Bart wanting the bike, and Grandpa's the one that gives it to him. That's A, he loves Grandpa more than Homer, and B, he's a bike rider. I guess I just
saw it as a location for him and Grandpa to bond.
It just seemed like there was a lot of car stuff in the beginning that...
I think they just came up with it was a means. Yeah, it was a vehicle to have him do something slamming into the house. But
I guess
it's because he shows him the car, he teaches him how to drive, and then it cuts to both of them older driving up to the Simpson house.
To the house, yeah.
Bart is driving. The car is beat up, so they've clearly been driving it. He's been letting Bart drive the car a lot, so it hints at the fact that they've been doing a lot of they've been spending a lot of time together. And
the car is symbolic of Grandpa and Bart's relationship. I guess. And then once Grandpa's dead, the car is no more.
It doesn't go to heaven because there is none.
All cars go to hell.
There's
it's
no
a great
heaven.
game. I played that DOS game.
Yeah.
All cars go to hell. Starring Burt Reynolds as the car. There's a brutal, shitty Homer moment where Bart draws him a bumper sticker, and Homer's like genuinely like,
because Lisa comes home and she has the honor student from Springfield Elementary bumper sticker, and they're so proud, and they put it on the car.
And that's
Bart
a nice telling moment that Bart makes his own bumper sticker. It's spelt wrong.
It was kid of the Yera. Y-E-R-A.
Yeah, and Sonny spelled S-U-N. So it was, but it was cute, and he gives it to Homer, and Homer was like, sure, he was, I'll put it on the car, of course. It's not that he's just like, oh, this is spelt wrong, this is terrible. The reason he doesn't end up putting it on the car is because he's just too attached to the other two bumper stickers.
Right, he has two other bumper stickers on. One is the Lisa bumper sticker, and the other was, this car doesn't play NPR.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of that?
It was funny.
I just like Homer hating NPR. I feel like Homer would hate NPR. The joke was that it was a stupid
bumper sticker. That's like
I know, but I feel like there's a better stupid bumper sticker.
Yeah, I guess it could have been funnier, but the whole episode could have been funnier. Every joke could have been funnier. But anyway, because there's no room, he just throws it on the ground.
I didn't think I didn't think he threw it onto the ground. I thought he either was like put it on the car or he dropped it and it flickered away.
He didn't give a shit. He just let it go. I'm not saying he crumpled open a ball and threw it at the ground, but he just did away with it. He didn't need it.
Hey, speaking of continuity, guys.
That bumper sticker was not in the driveway. The other 600.
No. But that is true. It wasn't conspiracy theory. No, internal consistency in this episode. That bumper sticker, Homer drops it and it falls into like the oil sling.
Shows up later.
And it
into the water,
crumbles up. But then later Bart has it at his little.
I guess Bart made two. Yeah. Bart made a first draft, maybe.
I guess.
No, it's the same one.
He made one for Homer and for Marge.
He de-oiled it.
Well, it was water.
I needed de-oiling after all that Greco-Roman wrestling we were doing before. Remember that? Was that cut out?
I thought Homer just maybe dropped it accidentally. I thought it was just a. I don't think.
I got
think
the impression he dropped it on purpose.
Oh, really?
I didn't get the impression that
because I thought it didn't seem like that because it seemed like he sincerely was like, yeah, I'm going to put it on the car.
If 4 fingers was him dropping it by accident, and 5 fingers was him like crumpling it up and throwing it on the ground out of malice, being like, ugh, I don't need this trash. I would say this is 4.5 fingers. It was more. It wasn't that he was intentionally just getting rid of it. He just didn't give a shit, and he didn't care where it went, whether it ended up on the bottom of the car floor or if it ended up in the street.
Right.
He wasn't even giving it a second thought. Yeah.
He was just getting rid of it.
But I think that alone is just the 4.5 fingers is just as cruel as the 5 fingers.
Yeah. I thought it was cold.
I thought at least it was more. I mean, it's not like jerk-ass Homer. It's not like he literally crumpled up, but it was still oafish.
I guess he just figured Bart wasn't watching.
Well, but that's the whole point, is that Homer is kind of doesn't really understand Bart and is kind of a jerk to him. Like, clearly Bart saw this and it had a very, very big impact on Bart's life. And I kind of liked that, I didn't like seeing Homer do it because it makes Homer out to be a real asshole. But then later on, when Bart's a teenager and Homer's trying to connect with him, we kind of understand why there's this distance between them.
Yeah.
Like, Bart doesn't really want to get to know Homer because Homer fucked up when Bart was a kid.
Well, let's talk about Bart as a teenager. First of all, it was interesting, and I like this, that they didn't spend any time in the normal timeline.
Yes, I was going to say the same thing.
I was surprised. I was expecting at least one token scene where Bart is 10 and Lisa's 8.
Yeah.
But I guess you don't really have the screen time for that, so you might as well
and you don't need it. We've seen 27 seasons of it, so it was act break. Bart was like 6,
12,
and then he comes back and he's 12.
Yeah, I like that.
Grandpa, I sure miss you, man. What would you say if you were here right now?
If you ever get a chance to pitch woo at Myrna Loy, take it. She has eyes like a Persian cat. Of course, in my day, Persia extended from Algiers to Constantinople till the revolt of the eunuchs in 1916. Whoa!
They give him the itchy and scratchy cake, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not even into itchy and scratchy anymore." And then they make the joke about "Ay caramba," how he never says,
and Marge is like, "Oh, you never say I don't have a cow, man," or "Ay caramba," and he like pities Marge and is like, "Don't have a cow, Mom."
We see a lot of these "don't have a cow" and "I caramba" meta jokes. I think it's too late. I think those jokes would have been funnier in season 8, season 10, which they did in the classic era. Like
Lisa's friends.
Yeah. But they made reference to those being old early on. I feel like at this point it's like it's not even that. It was 27 years ago.
Well, here's the thing I will say about it is that it's treated in a sort of
reverential type
it's
way.
treated in a way where Marge is like, oh, they did it in a boyhood way, quote unquote. Marge wants him to say the thing he used to say when he was a kid, and he says, don't have a foolish attachment to the past.
Yeah, that's a
and
good
it's
point.
a very little shot of like, well, I also thought it was a little joke shot at like people who were there to the Simpsons viewers where they're like, don't. Just get over it. They were like, "Hey, we podcast."
Yeah, really, it was definitely for us.
You need a podcast, really, to criticize our show. We're the biggest show in history, and
it was a meta joke, but it was a little. It was in the style of their like growing up and losing things kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
right.
at least that it would have been much. It was much less groany than when they usually do meta jokes.
It was much more groaning.
Who has a new Netflix series coming up, which we didn't mention.
That's very exciting. We'll wait till we get more details on that. But if it's pretty much just the third entry in the Simpsons Futurama trilogy, that would be fucking awesome.
What if it was just called Simpsarama and it was just a very loose, poorly made parody of the Simpsons and Futurama?
I was at work and I just saw like the headline. I didn't really give it much thought. I was like, oh yeah, Groening's going to produce another show. Fine. And then when you sit and think, it's like, oh wait, I mean, if it's going to be like full on Groening animation and his sensibilities, and it really is going to be like a Simpsons Futurama vein, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll wait till there's more details before. There's really nothing to talk about.
Yeah. So the birthday party. Well, then the birthday party ends with Lisa getting a text about how she's still student of the week for the 400th week in a row, and
I remember that.
And Bart changes the name on the cake to Lisa and walks out, and it's still it's one more beat of it being all about Lisa, even Lisa focusing everything on her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we see Bart, like preteen 12-year-old Bart, with Milhouse, and I thought the character design for Milhouse was great. Like he was a really
oily,
like greasy-looking teenager.
It's
or
funny
preteen.
how I guess there was animation-wise. There's just some.
He had like a feather in his hair too.
Yeah, that was a little like Warriors or something.
Like a wispy mustache.
Yeah, it's funny how that conveys oily because the skin itself probably wasn't oily. I don't think they had any animation for that, but you just get that. Ugh.
Yeah, it's like it was
very gross, kind of preteen, not well groomed.
And I think that ties
worked
in
for
with
Milhouse,
some of the
for
future
sure.
Milhouses we've seen later than 12. I feel like it tied in very well.
So yeah, they're going down the street, breaking street lamps, which was fine. That's teenage rebellion.
It seemed like a legitimate Milhouse reaction to what was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is so Wiggum pulls him over and gets him in trouble, and Milhouse says, "It was a victimless crime."
Yeah.
And then suddenly Mole Man can't see because all the lights are blown out and crashes into one and like goes through the glass.
Yeah, that was awesome.
He's finally hurt. One thing to note, he was driving the Gremlin, it looked like.
Oh,
really?
From Treehouse of Horror
Absolutely.
4. So I guess all the non-canon episodes are in their
on
own
the same
canon.
universe. So wait a minute, all of the Halloween episodes have taken place in the
Well,
same universe?
Did you not notice the one where the part where Marge was wearing like a full-on witch costume?
I did.
Flying around in
Oh my god.
Where Bart was a fly the whole time?
Yeah, I love that. That was a good one.
So
Classic Barthood.
And then Wiggum gives him. He says he's going to be charged with mole manslaughter. That's funny. I mean, he wasn't dead.
I like that he makes the joke, and Lou like comes over and he's like, well, it's actually Main Street.
Oh, because he says it's a nightmare on Elm Street.
Right.
And he's like, and then he does the Han mole manslaughter, and he's like, was that good enough for you, Lou?
Yeah, the Lou Wiggum interactions never really
hit for you.
me, yeah.
It was okay. It wasn't.
Wiggum was not really great in this episode.
No.
Because there was
Well,
another
this
scene
scene
that
is
we
fine,
another scene we glossed over way back where he's like cooking
Pepper spray.
sausages. Yeah, and he's like, you can season them with pepper spray, and he sprays himself in the face, and he's like, I need water for my eyes, and he picks up hot sauce and pours it in his eyes.
it wasn't
It's just
good.
like, yeah, we know where you're gonna go with
What
this.
is this, a Mr. Bean episode?
Yeah, you're right.
No, and what was poignant was, so they're blowing out all these lights, and Bart refuses to knock the one out in front of the Springfield retirement castle.
Right, because
that's
of
where his
grandpa.
lives.
Yeah. I like that.
Was
That
nice.
was cute.
See, it reinforces that they have a bond. So it's nice they have this bond. It's just, again, it's a little weird that bond.
It's a new thing they
Yeah.
introduced. He gives him the bike. He says, "Get out of here before I say something." You're gonna break your neck. You're gonna break your neck sometime. You might as well break it while you're young. Now get out of here before I say something even more crazy.
Was that when Bart was 12, or was it when he was
It was
younger?
when he was 12.
That was when he was 12?
12ish, yeah, I
Or
think
maybe,
12.
or maybe, I guess maybe
It was
when
in
he
this
gave him the bike.
this time of the episode.
That's when he
Okay.
gives him the bike, and he gets the bike, and then it cuts directly to Bart doing tricks in the driveway,
Right.
and walking into the house.
Now he's like 15.
Yeah, Lisa's going away for the summer. Bart
Right,
and Homer are gonna
this
spend
I
summer.
liked.
This scene has
The funniest joke.
the funniest joke,
Yeah.
maybe the only funny joke for me in the entire episode. Where
Aside from Mole Man?
they say I liked Mole Man. Where one of the Apple cars come out.
Mm-hmm.
One thing to note, they say Apple and not Mapple, which was
Yes.
smart because honestly, if they said
'cause it
Mapple,
wouldn't work.
it wouldn't really work.
Right, but Marge is saying we have to wait for our Apple car to come.
And it's literally just an apple-shaped car that's like running on diesel. And it's
A
like
white
joking.
apple-shaped car.
Yeah. That was,
I wish they had stuck with computers.
That was one of their few future jokes, even though now we're in flash forward mode. This was one of the few jokes that felt like one of those future episodes.
Yeah.
But it worked. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. But yeah, Lisa's going to a Mayo Clinic conference, so she leaves, and I guess Marge goes with her. Homer and Bart.
Maggie, I guess, as well.
That's true. We don't know where Maggie is. Homer and Bart have this scene where Homer tries to bond. I mentioned it earlier, and he can't. He tells Bart something ridiculous.
He tells him about windshield wipers. He's
right.
And,
He's
and
like, glad I
Bart's
told
like,
you that before I died.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Homer leaves and goes to Moe's, leaving Bart to throw a party. Bart's 15 now, so it's a teen party.
Thing to do,
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that there were a lot of kids whose we didn't recognize. Like
Yeah.
there were some that we
There's
did.
a lot of
like,
kids we didn't
Milhouse
recognize,
was there,
but-
Nelson was
There's a
there.
guy that looked like Dale Gribble.
Yeah, I saw that guy too. I thought it was Dale Gribble for a second.
And if anything, that was, again, maybe that was more of a Boyhood, the movie reference, and that it had like a lot
That
of weird
famous Dale
Austin,
Gribble scene,
Well, it
yeah.
had a lot of Austin drifters.
That was a
like,
weird
there was-
scene.
It had the Boyhood had a lot of like that Midwest drifter feel,
Well,
and I guess that was
Texas, I
Yeah,
think.
Texas, exactly.
Texas.
Well, I think they probably just wanted to have some.
I know,
some
but it was a
background.
weird background
Yeah.
character.
They, I
Yeah,
mean,
it was.
they clearly had a lot of like foreground characters that were.
Yeah, there was
Right, they were
Database,
funny.
who was basically
I
just
love
a bigger
Database.
database.
Yeah,
Bigger
he
database.
just
He was like
like
I blew up the
stretched out,
kid.
yeah.
He was kinda
Yeah.
bigger. But it works.
It works.
He would probably have that doughy baby face.
Yeah, you're
that
right.
is what a 15-year-old
Nelson looks
database.
older.
Nelson looks older.
Milhouse.
I liked what they did with Milhouse.
I liked Milhouse.
So Milhouse had gone to juvie for the light breaking incident, and now he's super jacked because he's been working out all the time, and he found God. He has a huge cross tattooed on his chest.
Yeah,
I think the idea of Milhouse being super religious makes so much sense.
Yeah. No,
I could totally see Milhouse being super
integrity.
religious.
That fits.
Yeah.
Sherry and Terry were in it. They
well,
look
Sherry
older.
was in it.
Oh yeah. Well, unless she was making out with two different guys. There was another one making out with somebody else.
Oh yeah, you're right. I think they were just
Sherry.
talking. I don't think they were making out.
No, there was one making out with somebody in the living room.
Maybe it is.
One makes out with Bart and says, "I'm not Terry, I'm Sherry."
Right.
She said, "You're a great maker-outer or whatever."
Goes,
you make out as great as Terry said, and he says, "Wait, you're not Terry." She goes, "Oh no, I'm Sherry."
Yeah.
The further you go, the more
the more you'll find the differences.
I guess they have different pubic
and
hair
I was like,
that's how I
had styling. I don't know.
I mean, here's the thing.
One has
knew
an
you
S
guys.
shape and one has a T shape.
One likes 4 fingers, one likes 5. Cut that out. Cut all of this.
I knew you guys were gonna be like gross. Especially Jack was gonna be like gross. This is gross. Why are they doing this? This is The Simpsons. And like I was like, yeah, it's a little gross. I know they're trying to do a little more like this is how growing up is. It was a little blue.
Gross. It was a little
blue for a 15-year-old.
It's blue, but it's also out of context or actually in context. It skeeves me out because even though now they're 15-year-olds, I know these characters
still
as
10-year-olds,
8-year-olds.
yeah.
Or 10-year-olds, yeah.
I'll be honest, this skeeves me out as 15-year-olds.
Well, yeah, that too.
Well, yeah.
Being
I would love to watch some 15-year-olds making out in the closet.
as long as they're 15.
Cartoon, though. I want live action.
Listen, they're not 8. It's okay.
That's my favorite Periscope is 15-year-olds in a closet.
Wait, is this real? Wait, now I don't know what's happening.
Not.
I don't know what's happening. I don't know what you're doing in your time.
If it was real, why would I go, yeah, look at this?
That's a very good question,
Or maybe
Jack.
it is real, and I'm pretending like, oh, of course I would look at that to throw off the scent.
Things are tense here in We
Please
Studios.
nobody create that account now so that it looks like it was real the whole time. Although if you do, let me know.
Subtitled Jack's favorite Periscope.
Sponsored by Jack's Movies.
Illegal in most countries.
Yep. Possibly all of them.
Whose butt is that?
Oh, no.
It's a 15-year-old.
Oh, dear.
And now we're in jail.
So then Bart sees, I don't know if he sees smoke or he's looking for Homer or whatever, but they go up.
He notices smoke. He says marijuana.
yeah,
I could get in real trouble for that.
Weed, yeah.
And then when he opens the door, he says, "Hey, the bong stays in the treehouse," which, like, obviously Bart's going to be smoking pot in the treehouse.
Smoking
like,
doobies.
Again, same with the 8-year-olds making out, even though they're 15. I just don't like weed in The Simpsons. I know there was a whole episode about it.
I don't.
It doesn't feel like it fits there.
Right.
I'm not a prude. I'm certainly not with marijuana. I just think it's kind of.
I think you are a prude, Jack.
I am.
Especially with marijuana.
I've never hooked up with a girl ever once.
Right.
Not even in a closet.
Not even in a closet. No.
Not even when I was 15.
Just weed feels.
Not even
Definitely not when he was 15.
Not even when she was 15.
Weed feels icky in the Simpsons for me. It fits here because again, boyhood, Barthood,
right.
It fits. But the scene, if you're gonna put weed in the episode, this scene was the biggest fail of the entire episode to me. It was such a dumb, stupid
It was just
scene.
a waste.
The Wiggum thing.
Room?
I don't know. It was weird they were in Lisa's room because Lisa's an 8-year-old in my mind.
I don't know.
But it's Homer is hitting the bong in Lisa's room, and Bart comes in and says, "I'm going to call the police." Oh, they're already here. And Chief Wiggum is also there taking bong hits with Homer.
Since when are they buddies?
Since when are they buddies? Since when is
I don't know.
Wiggum,
maybe they became buddies, guys.
Doing
right, drugs?
5 years.
That's true.
Right.
That's a good point.
It's stupid. He's only there because the police are getting high. I will say this: if I was okay with anybody on The Simpsons who was an adult getting high, it makes sense that Wiggum would be doing it.
Yeah.
Really? Why? Because he's
a fucking idiot, and he's lazy, and he likes to eat, and he can get away with it.
They also did in the
That's a good
episode.
point.
The episode with Laddie, all the cops did get it.
Right.
Party.
That's
you're
right. Yeah.
Shut up! I like the song.
Yeah.
Shut
All
up.
right.
I like the song.
5 integrity. Done.
No, but
everything other than him going, this must be really weird for you.
Yeah.
Everything after that was
terrible.
Liked his weed. I liked his. Usually it's very. Any medium, it's just people can't seem to depict being high on weed right. But I actually liked when he says it's like everything's happening right now. India, China. I like that.
Yeah, no. That section, that whole line was fine.
And you want to either call it one long extra beat or several extra beats, but then he goes to the
says,
window.
"I can fly."
Yeah, that's not weed. That's like
no, I don't know what that is.
PCP, LSD.
Yeah.
That was exactly what they. Well, was that supposed to be like a send up of the Helen Hunt thing? It might have been.
That's not weed.
But this is exactly what they didn't do in the majority of the episode, and when they did it, it didn't work.
Yes.
And that's they had a joke, they told the joke, and then they kept going with it.
They lingered.
And it stopped working, and
it kept going because then he flaps his arms, he falls, and then you hear him on the ground, officer down.
Yeah, right. Oh, that was no good.
Oh, it was terrible. And then that on top of the fact that the context that it was him and Wiggum getting high is just weird. And,
it is a little weird. I think it's supposed to be a little weird. I mean, Bart's obviously supposed to feel like it's very weird.
This is Bart's story.
Bart's supposed to be very weirded out by it. It's not supposed to be,
because it's not Homer's story. If this is Bart's story, what are they trying to say about Homer? Because this stays. Homer is now a stoner. He smokes weed now.
Well, this is a little of the boyhood thing of realizing like your parents are people. Yeah. And your parents like got drunk or drove drunk or like
you're right. And
got arrested.
That's a justifiable. That's a way to do it.
It's very weird, and I think it's supposed to be very weird. It's supposed to be uncomfortable because he walks in on his dad smoking weed, and I think
you're right.
Even if you smoke weed,
it's weird.
You might be weirded out to walk in on your dad getting high with like one of his friends.
And the fact that it's in Lisa's bedroom more than his own bedroom. He should have been in his bedroom. But the fact that it was in Lisa's bedroom adds something to that. You're right. Yeah. I just wish, I guess it was funnier then.
I agree. I think it just wasn't. It
just felt.
Played
I guess I was supposed to feel uncomfortable.
I mean, it's also a good like. Bart basically says, "Homer, you ruin everything," and it's very much like Homer just. They have a moment where Homer explains to him like, "Listen, like I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
there's a reason I'm not a good." "Quote unquote good dad," and it's because I have no clue what I'm doing. It's terrifying to have a child, and they have a moment.
Yeah, and it was like it was pretty good.
It was a great moment.
It's a shame it was in the context of that shitty.
Right. Yeah,
it was. But then also the way that Homer ruins it. I don't even remember what he says.
He says it's great to know. It's something like it's great to know you have a kid who's not going anywhere, who's never going to leave, who's never going to leave you. And it's this sort of like Homer moment where he's trying to say something that he thinks is like a good thing, and he has no clue is completely insulting.
Right. But I thought that it was not insulting enough for what happens. Like Bart flips out and leaves and goes to talk to Grandpa for advice.
I think it's pretty insulting because it's been clear the whole time that Lisa is the one who's like the good one who everybody loves, who's going places, and he's like, oh, it's good to know you're not going anywhere.
When my dad said it to me, I was pretty pissed off.
But I feel like this is hey Jackie boy, you're not going nowhere. No, but I thought it was more too real for you, Jack.
Reliving it.
But no, I thought it just going back to my point that I made 17 days ago, but about the internal consistency, like about it not being Bart things. It always seemed like Bart never really wanted to go anywhere. Like he was just kind of free to do whatever. He's going to be a moocher. Not in this episode, but in like past episodes.
In Four Finger Land.
In Four Finger Land, yeah. So I didn't find it so offensive. It makes sense. Like, yeah, it's a horrible thing for someone's father to say.
In the capacity of this specific episode.
Yeah,
it works because they built it into.
You guys have swayed me.
But yeah, it's not sort of a canonical.
Right.
Though Bart has in the past been worried that he's going to grow up to amount to nothing.
I guess, but I just never felt like Bart's big worry. But he's not leaving.
That's when he was like 8 years old, and now he's like 15. He's in high school.
True.
Now it matters.
More of the age to think about those kinds of things.
Yeah. So Grandpa's dead.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is we were watching the episode, and you could see Grandpa aging.
Yeah.
And Jack goes, I hope Grandpa doesn't die, or I hope they don't kill off Grandpa.
Yeah, I mean, like, I could see them doing it, but, I knew
of course they were going to.
But you could go 30, 40 years in the future and still realistically have Grandpa hanging around there. And,
theoretically. But what I liked is that we didn't actually see it. Not like Grandpa dying on screen, but there was no like funeral scene or anything. It was just we've moved forward in time enough.
They have Bart going, I'm going to go visit Grandpa, and he goes to the Springfield Retirement Castle, and then he goes
past it. Yeah.
So you think for a split second he is going to just visit him in person.
Well, it's funny. They also cut from the. You see the graveyard next to the Springfield Retirement Castle for like just a second, and then it cuts inside. So there's a moment of like you're like. Wait, where is... Oh, okay, now he's here. So
a little fool me once. But, this scene makes sense in the Grandpa Bart arc. It didn't do anything for me.
Well, I
liked it.
I actually thought, so Bart is at Grandpa's grave and asks him for advice, and he has like a thought bubble with Grandpa talking to him, and I actually thought it was one of the better post-classic Grandpa rants.
Yeah.
Where he's like,
he's ranting
looked at Myrna Loy and blah, 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 and he's talking about all this like old-timey crap.
If you ever have a chance to throw woo at Myrna Loy, because she's got eyes like a Persian cat. Yeah. Of course, in my day, Persia
went from Constantinople
and he slaps him.
So the actual rant works, and it works in context in that, look, Grandpa's even ranting in a thought bubble that's either the afterlife and or Bart's just imagination, and he's still ranting.
Yeah.
So that works too.
And he tells Bart, you got gumption, find what you love and do it, and that motivates the next scene where Bart is at the BMX, competitively BMX biking.
Like none of that. I just feel like I'm just going through the motions watching a scene like that. It doesn't really, nothing. I don't know.
Jack, we've noticed that you're dead inside, and we're a little worried about it.
It's kind of smells.
It is.
It's all the Groovic.
Necrosis.
That's why.
Oh, I thought you meant literally.
Yeah, no,
your cells inside my body are
you
dying.
are dead. Someone is weekend at Burnsying. Bernie's.
How do
you make Bernie's a verb?
Berniesing.
Berniesing. That's tough to say.
Berniesing.
Someone has made a béarnaise sauce out of Jack. And
it smells like
bombardment.
No, Brice. You're going to be gone for another 35 episodes. You bring that B word up.
Yeah, I don't know. Seemed to do much.
I like it. Listeners, tell us if you liked
Jack's
it.
dead inside.
We'll start a little Reddit poll. Is Jack dead inside, or are you also dead inside?
Or am I 4 fingers dead, or 5 fingers dead, or am I somewhat just like halfway in between dead?
Yeah, I'm gonna vote halfway.
Yeah, I can deal with that. I'm like Treat Williams in that '80s cop movie. What was it? Dead Again. I don't know. He's a corpse, but he's back.
He's a corpse,
I
never actually saw it.
Treat Williams.
Cut this.
I think we're the #1 Treat Williams podcast now too. With that
underrated
reference.
actor.
He is a good actor.
He started in an Elia Kazan movie, one of Kazan's only movies to not be a huge hit, and who probably should have started his career, and it didn't.
He was just in an episode of Blue Bloods.
I think we talked about this when he was on The Simpsons, right? Didn't
Probably.
we? I think you mentioned it.
Great guest star.
Yeah. The BMX scene, so they go to a BMX competition. I don't have that much to say about it.
No, there's really not much to say about it.
One of the only jokes I liked, and I didn't laugh or anything, I just didn't hate it, was Otto had a blood zony. Zamboni that cleans up.
Once again, though...
Although, wouldn't it be a blood bony?
Bro, I get a blood bony.
Once again, I will say
technically right.
Yeah, that's true.
They showed him doing it and then they cut away.
Direction.
They didn't have him doing anything. They didn't play that joke too long.
Right. I just like the idea of a Zamboni
I like the little
blood off a half pipe.
Yeah. I like Maggie getting the trophy for spinning the.
Yeah, I like the
thing.
little models of Maggie too. We don't really see her in that age very often. It was nice.
I just thought that the stuff they wrote up on the leaderboard was good, but. Yeah. It was fine. It wasn't anything great.
There was nothing noteworthy.
Yeah, there was nothing that.
None of the jokes were that good.
Story-wise, what's happening is here, Bart's in a half-pipe competition with the BMX, and he's actually he finally found something he's really good at, and he
says, finally I'm out of Lisa's shadow.
Yeah, and then he sees Lisa's shadow on the half-pipe. She had just come back from Mayo Clinic, and that throws him off, and he crashes, and he dies, and Lisa brings him back with CPR, and Lisa becomes the hero of the day.
Right, yeah. She kind of wins the BMX competition or something.
The real winner here is Lisa Simpson.
Exactly.
Which I thought was funny. I thought it was a weird way to have him distracted by seeing. I understand.
I like
I'm in Lisa's shadow, and then he just sees Lisa's
I
shadow.
I like it because if you're gonna do I'm in Lisa's shadow and then do a literal shadow, Lisa is the perfect person to do this with because her shadow is so
iconic.
I just thought they could have done something where it's gets in his vision, or I just thought it was sort of a. He looks down and he's like, oh no, and then just falls straight down. And it's I was like, well, clearly he was gonna not make it if he.
I thought it would have been better if he just suddenly realizes in midair he's like, oh no, the problem is I'm sexually attracted to her.
Oh no. Okay.
No?
Nope.
I thought that would have been much more interesting than.
That would be quite an Act 3.
Yeah.
It would have been 6 feet under.
God.
Like Game of Thrones.
Whatever. Any HBO incest show.
The problem is I can't stop watching that Periscope with 15-year-old girls in the closet.
But only if they're sisters.
Okay. So Act 3 begins.
By the way, Jack does have a sister, so it's very gross.
That, no.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. You did say you took baths together last week, Jack.
She wasn't 15 at the time. And why would I be attracted to a non-15-year-old?
Oh, I feel like this.
Well said. You're right.
I definitely
we know what you're into.
I definitely think this should not be a running gag for the show. I don't think it's gonna get more listeners.
Jack's pedophilia.
This is a niche audience you do not want.
Guys, I have to legally tell you that I live in the neighborhood.
Guys, there are at least 7 Simpsons podcasts out there, but I can guarantee you this is the only one with a running joke about pedophilia. You're not getting this on any of the other shows.
I feel like you've lost most listeners,
Oh,
but
absolutely.
the 12 you got.
The doomsday process, the listeners who remain are our strongest listeners.
The 12 you got are
also
never going
Also
away.
pedophiles.
I mean, pedophiles need a Simpsons podcast too, so we'll cater to whoever's.
They don't need
Whoever's gonna shop on jock.com, we'll
No, not jock.com. don't include them.
What are that kind of apps they make?
If you're a pedophile, use MailChimp.
MailChimp
will stop. They'll stop saying this if you sponsor them.
Yeah. All right. So then they get. Then Bart's even older. I guess he's 18 now.
I think he's about 18. He's a character artist on the at the Squidport.
Yep.
Yeah, tying back into the art. There was a dark joke where Disco Stew was so old.
Nothing Stew.
Now Nothing Stew. He looked a lot older than 8 years older.
He did, but you got to figure he has to be alive in the 70s,
probably
right?
makes you younger. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. Now I'm Nothing Stew. I thought that was cute.
Milhouse shows up. Wants Bart to come to graduation. Bart talks about the issue of Lisa. Milhouse is graduating Lisa ostensibly because Milhouse was
I guess
in
Milhouse was
juvie.
left back.
He was in juvie, so that's fine. They go to the party.
So they go to a party that in the woods for Milhouse graduating.
A little like
Dazed and Confused.
Dazed and Confused,
Yeah.
With they got
the Linklater in there. They should have had the.
They have a water tower, not a moon tower.
There's a really good line I liked. One of the few lines I liked was Milhouse says he's going to make up a story about a girlfriend, which
yes, a Canadian girlfriend,
which I actually did in like 6th grade or somewhere around that time, where I didn't know that was a thing. It was funny that I independently was like, yeah, I met a girl at summer camp.
Yeah.
But he says he's gonna name her Alberta, and she comes from Alberta. That way he only has to remember one lie.
Yeah, I thought that was
That's
funny.
very clever. I like that.
That was good.
And then the Van Houtens are fighting. And
it did nothing for me.
That was whatever. I liked Krusty getting angry when he said that it was like, you're the most entertaining thing at this party, and Krusty's like, oh, thanks a lot, and like lifts away with his bear in the hot air balloon, and then crashes.
It explodes.
Yeah.
And then
my biggest problem, and I hate to sound like a broken record, I hate to come up with the same exact problem over and over, but again, I like the story here. I like the idea of Bart going through the trials of boyhood. And I like the idea of him having a rivalry with Lisa, but I don't. The scene where they kind of just redeem, Lisa comes to the party and they make up, or they start to make up because they make up in the garage scene after that. But they lay the seeds here. The redemption, I don't know. I just didn't buy the fact that it's like, okay, everything's okay now. It was
He's
just
not
like,
though. He reacts to the fact that she says he's talented. He's like, you think I'm talented, and that's what causes him to leave, and he gradually starts to smile at the end of the scene. Cut to him
he just
riding
wants
a custom bike.
I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's nice. I think the person that he's constantly felt like he has to one up tells him like, no, you're good at this.
Is now the one person who's supporting him.
This is your
finally.
thing. Yeah. And he takes that, and then he decides to create the bike shop.
And I guess they should have built it up more earlier. That is a nice idea. That look, if you're an adult and you have siblings, your parents aren't going to always be there. But unless there's some unforeseen tragedy, you could rely on your siblings being there for the bulk of the run. I guess there's something there for Lisa. Lisa is in his corner more than the parents. The parents are almost temporal. It's almost like they're there for the first leg.
I don't think it necessarily needs to have I think this is like way too.
We're talking like life and
family.
I think this is.
It's about boyhood. We're talking about childhood here.
I just think it's. I don't think it's that. I think you're going deeper into it than they probably just wanted to have a resolution where Bart and Lisa.
That's my problem. Is the resolution's not strong enough. It's just I don't buy Bart. If Bart's got all this angst, Lisa's saying, you're an artist, buck up. That's not good enough for me.
Yeah, but she doesn't say necessarily you're an artist, buck up. She says you're a great, you're a talented artist, and he says, you think I'm talented, and she says, yeah, and you've already got like what every great artist needs, like the issues.
And
she basically
speech. That's not like it's not good storytelling. I have a speech resolve everything. That's not story. That's an essay. That's words.
I mean, I was happy the episode ended when it did.
Well, I mean, I'm always happy when
it
it cuts the credits. Yeah.
But
I could see your argument there of saying like you'd rather she didn't just
but
tell him that.
How do you convey that by action as opposed to...
I'm not getting paid by Fox to write the episode, but they should show it, not tell it.
It's fair. I mean, it's a fair. I think it's a fair criticism.
It seemed too easy. It just seemed too easy.
I think they needed to get out. They only have 22 minutes. So
speaking of needing to get out, let's move on.
Yeah, the bike shop at the end was nice.
Yeah, Bart has his own bike shop. I thought that was cute. He's actually doing something. It ties into everything that we've seen, like with Grandpa and everything. So that was kind of nice.
Nelson comes in.
Nelson and Lisa are dating. I thought there would be maybe a reference to the episode where they were dating when they were 10 years old, but there wasn't.
I think the fact that they're dating is the reference.
Yeah,
I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's nice that she's wearing his vest.
Yeah, you pointed that out. I didn't even notice that she was wearing Nelson's vest. I thought that was cute.
And then, it ends with him bringing the shutter down, and he's drawn Lisa on there.
Right,
Lisa's disappointed that Bart's got his art everywhere, and it's all
here's a mural of all the scenes we've seen in this episode.
His favorite memories from his childhood.
And she's not in them.
She's not in any of them. She's kind of bummed, and then Bart has a special one just for her when he closes the gate.
Right.
Yeah.
It was
nice.
a little too much, I thought. Like, I don't know if there was enough in this episode for us to see, like, oh my God, one of my favorite sisters or whatever it was. And like
That's,
a big
again,
thing.
this ties into what I was saying about the speech at the end. I feel like the Bart Lisa thing needed to be beefed up more than any of the other him and Grandpa, him and Homer, whatever. I think the him and Lisa's storyline should have been the if it was the through line, if it was technically the A plot, it should have been stronger.
I agree that I think they could have trimmed out other stuff and had another scene with Lisa that would have added to the emphasis on her being a reason that Bart overcame his issues. I think that's a valid complaint,
right?
Yeah.
Or valid critique.
Yeah.
So then, after that, we get the line that actually spawned the Reddit thread that was talking about this episode.
So I actually avoided this. So there is a full thread on our Reddit. Somebody started the day after this episode aired,
right?
About Barthood. I actually avoided it because I like to go into these episodes cold.
Right. The question was, Nelson sees that Bart has tagged this picture El Barto, and he says, "You're El Barto, but how?" I don't get it. I don't get what the joke is. And people on Reddit have explained
he doesn't know that he's.
Yeah.
That it's just that somebody didn't.
It's very obvious that El Barto is Bart.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's signed his.
It blew Nelson's mind.
Nelson's like, what?
Yeah, it was not well done. If that's the gag.
Oh, I felt like if he had just said, "Wait, you're El Barto," and then it had cut out, it might have been funny. But he goes, "Wait, you're El Barto."
But there was nothing.
How is that possible?
Yeah, you're right.
But there was nothing in the episode about El Barto at all.
Well, you see the graffiti while he's skateboarding.
Yeah, I know you see the graffiti,
that's tying into the show. It's not tying.
That's just tying into the
Four Finger world.
But why is it not possible to Nelson? That doesn't make any sense.
Right. That's what's weird. It's blowing his mind.
He's saying
that line makes it seem like there's more to it than just like this.
No, it's
runner.
just like Brice says. It's just you're El Barto.
It's just supposed to be somebody going, "Wait, you're El Barto? What?"
They just worded it weird.
And they just worded that second part of it. If he had just said, "Wait, you're El Barto," and I think they'd cut it off, you would have been like, "Oh, that's funny," because why would you not know?
And then it gets to the credits, and they say, "Oh, this is just like that."
Well, they revisit the first scene because Homer and Bart are now laying on the grass, and Homer's older, and Bart is like in his 20s.
Because of pollution. Why is grass green? Because it's
why is this beer so good? Because you had 7 of them.
Yeah. I like that.
That was kind of a good line.
I feel like in general they weren't terrible. They weren't like the Chief Wiggum scene, but I feel like they could have been Doomsday into much funnier question answers.
Yeah.
Felt like it was just going on too long, probably because they weren't as funny.
Yeah.
And then it goes, "Hey, I just realized this is like that movie Boyhood."
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you didn't need that.
You know what
I didn't like that at all.
You know what I didn't like about. The other thing is you talked about the Lisa thing, and that never really bothered me until you brought it up. I liked.
I'm good at ruining things for people.
No,
it's true. That's very true.
I think I liked.
Sorry about your wedding, Dan.
That's all right. Well, I'll have another one. Sorry, Django.
I like the niceness. The resolution was nice of like Lisa and Bart, so it felt nice enough to me that I sort of got over it. Though I completely agree with your critique. Yeah. The thing that bothered me is that there's no resolution with Homer in any way, and that seemed to be another big thing where Homer kept trying to reach out and screwing up, and after Bart has that issue with him, and he like runs away.
They never come back.
To it. Homer's there supporting him at the BMX, but there's never a moment where they get together.
That's a great point.
And that did bother me, is that they could have had like a little just token moment where they find something in common.
Exactly. That would
and
be perfect,
they show at the end that clearly they have found something in common, but you never see it happen. And it probably could have been a scene where
once
they
Bart
do
becomes
that.
an adult, now Homer has something to bond with.
Yeah.
Him. Now they can relate to.
They do that, and then somehow segue into Lisa like precipitating that. Lisa like giving him. Lisa started sort of like helping him out as like a sister.
He could even been Skyping Homer in the garage and then saying, "All right, goodbye, Dad," when Lisa comes in, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they could have trimmed the scene. They could have trimmed the scene to make a better Lisa storyline, and with that, they could have also done something with Homer. But you know what? It wasn't enough to ruin the episode. It's just something that I missed.
Biker, huh? I used to bike. I used to have dreams.
I used to think disco was coming back. Now I'm just stew. Nothing stew.
That's it for Boyhood. So let's rank it on our Hippo scale. We're looking at the humor, the integrity, the production, and the originality of this episode. So we're going to put 2 minutes on our patented week clock.
Beep, boop, beep, 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 but pretend it's acoustic guitar.
Okay. And that's some good acoustic guitar.
Thank you.
Okay, so we got a timer on the clock. Let's talk about the humor of this episode. 0 to 5. What are we thinking, boys? Brice, what do you got?
It's not that it was unfunny.
Not exactly a laugh out loud.
Yeah,
episode.
it's not that it was an
not
unfunny.
Not a knee slapper, not a rib tickler.
Exactly, all those things. It's not that it was unfunny. It just didn't have that many jokes in it. Right. So, I mean, of the jokes they told, maybe half of them hit well. So, I mean, I don't know how to rate. I guess like a 1.5, 2. Like it just wasn't
this
that
was not
funny.
An especially funny episode.
I always
of
struggle with 1 or 1.5 because I'm always like, it wasn't very funny, but there were a few jokes. So here's what I'm going to say from now on. If I laughed or chuckled 5 times, that's enough to boost it from 1 to 1.5. I'm trying to think of 5 jokes I liked. I liked Mole Man. I liked the Apple Car. Mm-hmm. There was a third one I said I liked.
There was another one you laughed at.
But I can't remember any. I feel like it was 3.
I thought you laughed 2 more times. I don't know if you laughed 5 times.
Maybe this 5 jokes is too high a standard for 1.5.
It's a high standard.
Because 1 seems too low, doesn't it, Dan? What do you
1
think?
seems too low. I think I'm going to go 1.5. I liked they read it, right?
All right,
that was a background gag.
1.5.
But,
we'll say there weren't a lot of jokes, but more jokes landed than were awful jokes. Yeah. That's what I'll say.
That Wiggum joke should take away some.
The Wiggum thing is
but there
definitely
weren't 7 of
lot
those.
You're right. There weren't 7. There's just the 1. All right, let's move on.
No, that wasn't just the 1. There were more than 1. But...
Well, the Wiggum one was especially terrible.
Yeah.
But especially Wiggum.
Right.
So let's move on to integrity. This is the big one.
Yeah.
For this episode.
Brice, what do you think on the integrity?
It's like a little experimental, non-canonical show.
Yeah.
So it's hard to judge. I think of the things that they took from the characters, I thought they were good. I thought Marge was realistic. I liked the fact that Marge was realistic to Marge. I liked the fact that she laughed.
I could have seen more Marge in this episode.
I could have too.
Marge got the short straw.
Especially considering Patricia Arquette's role in Boyhood.
Yeah. No, they definitely sidelined her. I like when she laughs when Homer. She's like, "Oh, don't do that," and then she starts laughing when he's scaring Homer.
Right. Oh yeah,
it's a very classic Marge, like being embarrassed that she likes something low humor. Mm-hmm. I thought Marge was good. Homer wasn't jerk ass. He was oafish, dumb dad. It wasn't. He's been this bad before.
They hammered Homer to make a point with Bart. And the overall episode.
Just to hammer this metaphor over one more time, I feel like the integrity here, it wasn't 4 figures, it wasn't 5 figures, it was 4.5 figures. And nobody seemed quite out of character. They were in the same realm. I'm gonna give it a 3.
I really thought you were gonna say it's not a 4, it's not a 5, so I'm gonna give it a 4. Or it was more of a 4.5, so I'm gonna give it a 0.
Now I'm gonna give it a 3.
I'll say 3. I think 3 is fair because it's not for what they were doing. It worked.
I'm gonna say 3 also for all of the reasons that you guys just said.
How about production?
Production.
It looked good.
It looks fine. I liked the character designs
the
of
naturalistic feel.
Yeah, the look was really nice.
I really liked the couch gag a lot, the rotoscope couch gag. Yeah. So I'm gonna give it points for that. I'll probably be pretty high on the production. I'm thinking maybe 3.5, 4.
3.5 sounds right. 4 seems too high. There's nothing amazing. There's no spectacle.
But what's a 5? I mean, The Simpsons production value is is relatively limited.
Oh.
So this didn't have any like spectacular quote unquote camera work, which is what I usually think makes a 5 episode.
You're right.
But I would say it's 3.5, 4 is.
I think I'm gonna actually go 4.
Right.
I think I'm gonna give it an extra bump there.
I'm gonna go 3.5. And originality, Brice.
Certainly very original.
Unless you count Boyhood.
Yeah.
Wait, this was based on something else?
I always take a half point off for any adaptation.
I mean, it was. It's interesting to see the Simpsons characters doing this type of thing, and it wasn't exactly a parody of Boyhood like we talked about. Like, it doesn't hit the same story beats. There's no divorce. There's no. I was gonna say there's no younger sister, but there is.
So what would you give it?
So I'm thinking. I don't know. I might go right down the middle and just say 2.5.
Sounds about right, Brice.
I'd say at least 3.5. My argument would be that this story seems like somebody who really wanted to tell a story with The Simpsons about something having to do with The Simpsons. It wasn't just. It could have been just plant them into Boyhood, and they actually wanted to tell a story, and they didn't succeed on all fronts. But I felt like somebody cared when they were writing this. And they tried to do something interesting and different
here.
They were trying.
It's nice that they're experimenting, and maybe I should boost the score a little bit for this. My problem is the problem I've been having with lots of these episodes, just not enough meat on the bone. I just felt like all the storylines are there. So I like that the originality. Just wish they would have done more with it. The redemption scene, I don't think they earned it. I was gonna say 2, but you know what? You're right, because it's experimenting. I'll boost it to 2.5.
I'm gonna boost mine too. Way to go, Brice! You got an extra half point out of me. I'm boosting it to a 3. Okay, so we have crunched our numbers, and a Barthood from season 27 has ranked as a slightly better episode than Bart Mangled Banner and a slightly worse episode than Old Yeller Belly. That puts it at number 48 on our current list. That's a little low, but this was not a very funny episode.
It wasn't a great episode. It was better than the usual schlock.
Yeah,
but it's not. It's
right.
Well, I'll say it's a little sentimental, sappy. It's different.
Yeah.
And because your score, you the way you score The Simpsons is sort of more geared towards the traditional Simpsons structure. So I think if it had been weighted a little differently because it's so different, but this is sort of an outlier. So I think it's weighted a little higher.
It's pretty much in the middle.
We're
we're
in our second year here. We've got 600 more episodes to go, give or take.
Yeah, we'll
I
do all
feel
of them.
like this isn't going to be a surprise. I think that we talked about last week how it's kind of like my torso. It's kind of getting bigger. It's getting wider. It's not getting. So I
can confirm that. I saw it last week.
So I feel like that's just going to keep happening. The more episodes we do, is the best episode evers and the worst the least worst episode evers and the worst episode evers are going to be in the minority of the right up the middle.
Well, it's funny that this spot with Bart Mangled Banner we have done in 3 of the past 5 episodes have ranked,
taken this spot.
Have ranked like pushed down and been next to Bart Mangled Banner.
Yeah, and I feel like
that's a weird benchmark.
As we do 600 more episodes, I feel like a lot of them are going to be rotating over that Bart Mangled Banner.
Yeah, I think
before
so.
one of us kills ourselves.
Yeah, that might be soon. So that'll do it for this episode of Worst Episode Ever. If you have an episode that you would like to suggest, you can do that on our website. Where's that website? It's weepodcast.com. That's weepodcast.com. And while you're there, you can check out our Facebook page, our Reddit, our Twitter, all of our social media, and our Sync Points episodes, which you can buy for $2 each. And, of course, 90s Percentile will be up there when it launches this
Just a
Monday,
few days.
folks.
So the next time
Not
you go to
much
this
time.
website, there might be a brand new episode of a brand new podcast.
The website might change a little bit, too. We don't know totally what's going to happen.
This is going to be just like, for those of you who joined a little later, it's going to be like the early days of Wii, where we're just kind of seeing what happens.
We're just throwing a bunch of shit out there and seeing what sticks. But weepodcast.com will always be the website, so check that out. If you're in the Brooklyn area, I co-host Woohoo Classics Business Trivia at Barry Park. It's the first Thursday of every month. Google around for more information about that. There's plenty of trivia nights in your area,
come
too.
To Brooklyn Trivia, when Dan plugs the podcast, please do not boo.
Cheer.
We work very hard on it.
Cheer for the podcast.
It might be funny to make fun of Dan because he's the leader of the group, but I'm there too, and it makes me cry. Brice sits at my table. He sees the tears.
Jack takes it real hard
Jack
when you
cries
guys boo.
a lot.
So actually,
I take it real hard when 300 people boo at the thing I spend 4 days a week.
I thought they were saying boo earns. But that's just
here's the thing. I'd say go ahead and boo, but just elect before
Make sure you say Jack. This is to
before the
Jack.
thing starts. Elect one person to go, Yay, Jack! At the end of the booze.
Okay, I will do that
just to make sure. So as a group, all 300 people there, you guys just elect somebody to do that.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to know that
we're not going to tell Jack, so it'll be okay.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Thankfully, everything we record, I just forget about immediately. Yeah.
We forgot what episode we did last week, just a moment earlier. Brice, we want to thank you for being our guest again.
Thanks for having me.
I would like to have you on again at some point. And would you ever be on 90th
episodes?
percentile, maybe?
Absolutely not.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see if you change your tune, Brice.
Wait, why is this door locked?
Oh, yes. We're going to get in the closet.
He's not 15.
Oh, he's not? Oh, get out of here. Next week, we're going to be watching an episode from season 16 called Pranksta Rap. So join us.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
It does sound horrible. Join us next Thursday. We're going to be watching that. And thank you guys for listening and supporting the show. Tell your friends about it. 5-star reviews on iTunes, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to do it.
Here's a little wee trivia for you guys. The last time Brice was on, our 30-vertery, was the very first episode we did a cut all this submission. So Brice has never actually got a chance to end the show. Brice, give us a cut all this.
Cut all this.
Why are clouds brown?
Pollution?
Why is the grass green?
Because it's artificial.
Then why are the sprinklers coming on?
Because I was too lazy to unhook them.
Why aren't we moving?
Because you're drunk and I'm stoned.
Why does beer taste so good?
Because you've just had 7.
Did you like the movie Boyhood?
Oh, is that what this was?